Hi folks, so I want to thank everyone for joining us for Stantive's Orchestra Winter 17 release overview webinar. I'm excited to share our new feature set with you. First, a quick agenda. So I'm going to go over a quick list of the new features in our Winter 17 release with you. Then we're going to dive into each feature and do a quick demonstration for each. At the end of the presentation, we've set aside some time for Q&A, as John mentioned, where we'd love to get your feedback and answer any questions that you might have. So without further ado, let's jump into the presentation. For our Winter 17 release, we concentrated on the user experience. With feedback from many of our customers, we focused on redesigning the Orchestra user interface. In addition to a sleeker look and feel, we wanted to consider the user's experience when working with OrchestraCMS. Two of the big changes resulting from the UI redesign include an improved authoring experience for content and pages, as well as bulk actions, allowing you to select multiple content items at the same time for performing actions. We've also changed the behavior of master pages, allowing you to preview pages in context with their assigned master pages without having to publish the master page. URLs can now be reused on pages other than the ones they were originally assigned to. Behind the scenes, we've modified OrchestraCMS to be able to take advantage of a new Salesforce feature called Platform Cache, which will improve the performance of both the OrchestraCMS application and any site managed by OrchestraCMS. Let's take a look at the OrchestraCMS UI redesign. In addition to style changes for the look and feel, we have moved items around within the UI. The initial tab when accessing OrchestraCMS is still the Overture tab. However, you no longer have to open the Pages, Content, and Media tabs, as they are always open on the Manage Site tab. All the menu items have now been consolidated into a context-sensitive Actions panel to the left of the Open tab or item. The current site, setup, and user menu have all been moved to a toolbar at the top of the application. Let's take a look at this live. As you can see, the Overture tab is still the first interface a user sees when accessing OrchestraCMS, presenting the most recent pages, content, and files that the user has edited or touched. We also have the Content tab, Pages tab, Media tab, and if you have activated the approval processes within OrchestraCMS, the Tasks tab. These tabs are always open and can be accessed at any time by selecting the Manage Site tab. Opening any of the pages or content, so let's take a look and we'll try a couple of those. Open up some pages here. Open up some content. See here we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. So I've got 8 pieces of content and pages open, and you can see that only 5 of those tabs are currently being displayed. Previously, if you had many tabs open, they would form 2 rows, which caused some spacing issues. Now, all the tabs open on the same row, and when you exceed the available space, this little marker on the right can be used to access the list of open tabs. You'll notice that the Claims tab is not currently being displayed. If I click on the Claims tab, that tab is brought to the foreground for me to access. So no more losing the tab that you had open. The menus that were previously displayed across the tops of page editors, content editors, and any other tabs have all now been consolidated to the Actions panel on the left. You can see that as I switch from Overture to Content to Pages, that the content of the Actions panel switches to relevant actions for the selected tab. So the Actions panel is context sensitive, meaning that the actions displayed are always relevant to the current context of the user. You can also see that the Content, Pages, and Media tab all have a Filters tab available, allowing you to search for relevant content, search for relevant pages, And the media library is also now searchable to allow you to return specific media files from within the media library. At any time, you can reclaim a little screen real estate by minimizing the application header seen here with the logo, search box, full preview, time travel, and live site buttons by using the little minimize widget to hide the header. This gives us a little extra room to work with within the interface. We can also access OrchestraCMS setup through the gear icon, the list of current sites through the globe icon, and the user-specific menu for logging out or returning to Salesforce through the user icon. There's also a new Customize option available, which allows each user to customize their preferences for a variety of options. Currently, there are two options available. One is to set the behavior when opening up a page editor within OrchestraCMS. Layout mode represents the classic mode with the layout and the widgets for the page template, and rendered mode provides an in-context editing experience, allowing you to see the page in a preview mode while still having access to editing the content. The preview options toolbar is displayed when you preview a page, and the toolbar can either be automatically expanded or automatically minimized when accessing the preview of any page. You can set the default behavior for that preview toolbar here as well. Let's close up a few of these. Previous versions of OrchestraCMS used multi-step wizards to allow your editors and authors to create pages and content. While we were streamlining the interface for OrchestraCMS, we also wanted to streamline some of the tasks your users have to perform on a regular basis. To save time, creating a page or content now happens all on a single screen. So let's take a look at that. So here I am in OrchestraCMS, and on the Overture tab, I'm going to choose to create a new piece of content. The Create New Content wizard opens, and where previously there were 3 steps required to have the content created, all of the options to create the content now appear in a single screen. So we can select the content type and the content template, provide the name, description, start date, end date, and languages of the content. Clicking Finish and Edit opens that content in a new tab within the OrchestraCMS interface, where your content editor or author can provide the details required to create that content and then have it published. The same exists for creating a page. It's now a single-step wizard, allowing you to select the master page and page template and provide the details necessary to create that page, including, under Advanced Properties, your force login, force SSL, and any SEO keywords that you might want to provide. Another part of streamlining the content management experience involves allowing you to bulk manage content and pages. In previous versions, you would have to open each page or content individually to perform many of the actions you might want to take on the page or content. With Winter 17, we've simplified the management to save you time by implementing bulk actions. So let's take a look at this. In OrchestraCMS, for instance on the content page, if I select multiple pieces of published content, you'll see that I can create a new version of all of those pieces of content with one click. Or, for that matter, expire all of that content with one click. Similarly, if I select multiple pieces of unpublished content, then the selectable actions change and I can publish or delete all of those pieces of selected content, again, with a single click, so that instead of having to open each item individually to perform the actions, we save time by managing it in bulk. By the same token, if I access Pages on the Pages tab, we can see that if I select multiple published pages, again, one click allows me to create a new version of each page or expire all of those pages at the same time, or for that matter, to refresh the cache of multiple pages at the same time instead of individually. In addition, if your organization is using private sharing, which allows you to set security on items within OrchestraCMS, you can select multiple items at the same time and share all of those items in a bulk situation without having to open each item and assign individual security for each item. Master pages in OrchestraCMS are used to simplify the management of content used across many pages. So for instance, menus, logos, headers, footers, those types of things. In previous versions of OrchestraCMS, you would need to publish the master page in order to see how changes to the master page would be reflected on the pages that the master page was applied to. With Winter 17, a new option has been provided to allow you to preview what those changes would look like without having to publish the master page. So let's take a look. Your OrchestraCMS administrator needs to enable an option in OrchestraCMS Setup under Details, called Master Page Preview. Once that option is enabled, any changes that you make to a master page can be previewed live immediately without the need to publish the master page. So for example, I'll open up the master page here. And you'll see that there's currently nothing at the top in the green area in terms of content. If I open up the home page for my site, which has that master page applied, and preview that page, you'll note that sure enough, nothing is displayed in the blank area. However, if I go to the master page and add something into that panel, for instance, a logo, now that the content has been added to the master page, and we can see it there, I'll simply save the change without having to publish the master page, and preview the home page, and we can see that the change made to the master page is reflected immediately without a need to publish those changes and make them live on the website. We also heard from our customers that they would like to be able to take the URL they previously used on one page and assign it to a new page that they have authored. With Winter 17, you can. Although only one page can use a given URL at any one time, you can now take the URL from an expired page and assign it to a new or existing page. Let's take a look at an example. I have here a claims page. If we look at the properties of the claims page, if we look at the properties of the claims page, we can see that the claims page has the URL assigned claims. For our example, I have been asked to consolidate all benefits functions in our sites to a new page. We're going to retire the old claims page and create a new page called forms. But I want to use the URL claims on our new forms page. So I will go to create a new page. I will attempt to assign the URL claims to that page. And when I hit finish and edit, I receive an error message telling me that that URL is currently in use by a page called claims, and that I first have to expire that page before I can reuse its URL. Handy thing to know. So now I go to the claims page, and I say, all right, I'm going to expire that page since we're no longer going to use it. And then I will repeat the process of trying to create that forms page. So now I'll create my forms page. I'll assign it the URL, claims, and this time when I hit finish and edit, no error message, but my new forms page can use the claims URL currently used or that was previously used by the claims page. For the administrators out there, I want to move away from the user interface improvements we've made and talk a little bit about some of the changes we've made under the hood. So there's a new feature you can license from Salesforce called Platform Cache. Platform Cache allows you to cache data in memory on the Salesforce side that would typically involve lookups to the database. So this improves performance for commonly used data. OrchestraCMS has lookups that it uses to perform regular functions. So caching that data into the platform cache improves not only the performance of your site, but also the performance of the OrchestraCMS application itself. Now, we're going to take a look at this in a moment, but first I'd like to pause, turn it back over to John so we can take a quick poll and gather some information.
Thanks, Darren. We're going to launch a quick poll now, so if you could select your answer in the box provided. We'll wait a few moments for answers to come in. Thank you. Again, if you could select your answer in the box provided, we'll wait a few moments for the rest of our answers to come in. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Darren, back to you.
We appreciate that feedback, folks. We greatly value that feedback. It allows us to determine whether or not we're headed in the right direction. So currently, for your own interest, nobody's currently using the platform cache feature. However, everybody appears to be exploring it for future use. All right. So when the Winter 17 update for OrchestraCMS is installed, a platform cache partition with no allocated space is created in Salesforce. So I didn't have to make this. This happens automatically when you apply the Winter 17 update. And if we take a look at that partition, Salesforce expects you to allocate some space from the amount you have purchased or available to that platform cache. There's actually two caches. There's a session cache and an org cache. Okay. If you have questions about how much cache you should allocate, please reach out to Stantive support and we can go over your data with you and offer some recommendations. I have 10 megabytes worth of cache available, so I have split it equally, 5 megabytes for each. Once the platform cache space has been allocated in Salesforce, your OrchestraCMS administrator can come into Setup for OrchestraCMS, select the platform cache option, and enable some combination of the 5 available caches. Just want to take a moment to talk about these 5 options. So the site object cache is used by every OrchestraCMS transaction and live site request. So we strongly recommend that this cache be enabled. The user object and targeting filters cache is only used by the OrchestraCMS targeting feature and only used by your live site. So if you're not using the targeting feature of OrchestraCMS, then there's nothing to be gained by enabling this particular cache. This is the only cache that uses session cache. All the rest of the options use the org cache. So it's best to keep that in mind when you're assigning the amount of space that you want to set aside for each cache in Salesforce. The site language maps cache is used by multilingual sites during live site rendering. So the application doesn't take advantage of that one, just the live site. And even if you don't use the multilingual feature of OrchestraCMS, you should enable this cache. The page version index cache is used by the live site, and we recommend that this cache be enabled as it improves the speed of page lookups on your live website. The user profile permissions and feature licenses cache is only used by the OrchestraCMS application and not the live site. Every action taken by a user in OrchestraCMS has to be verified against the database to ensure they actually have permission to do the thing they're trying to do. So it's recommended that this be enabled, as it will improve the performance of the Orchestra application. The caches are populated as information is looked up by use of your site or by the OrchestraCMS application. And at any time, you can clear any of the caches using the Show Cache Keys button and the Remove from Cache option for the specific cache you want to clear out. For our partners, developers, and implementers, we've continued to enhance our existing API offerings. So we are now versioning the API at version 4. And in OrchestraCMS version or 2 back, we introduced the new Content API that allows you to create, edit, and manipulate content programmatically. The new Filtering API, introduced in Winter 17, can be used to pull back limited content bundles for use with the Content API. The power of the Filtering API lies in the criteria that you can now use to pull back the IDs needed for the other Content API functionality. For instance, you can pull back recently published content as well as content by name. The new media enhancements allow you to use the media selector and rich text editor in Visualforce pages outside of OrchestraCMS, so that these can be incorporated into custom applications and Salesforce page layouts. Additionally, the APIs are currently being used to power solutions in Salesforce Lightning and in Lightning components through Salesforce Community Builder. Now I'd like to take a moment to tease an upcoming enhancement. I'd like to start by saying the standard safe harbor statement. You should, of course, limit any buying or planning decisions to features that are currently available in the product. Having said that, I'm happy to say that our current plans for the spring release of OrchestraCMS include internationalization of the user interface for the application. So our development team has been hard at work isolating all the labels in OrchestraCMS so that we can provide a French user interface in the OrchestraCMS application, along with our current interface, English interface out of the box. So this effort will also enable developers, implementers, and partners to provide additional language translations so that the OrchestraCMS user interface can be made available in languages to match your Salesforce interface. So this concludes our presentation, and I'd like to open the floor to any questions.
Thanks, Darren. We will now begin our question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please do so by entering your question into the box provided. We'll wait for a moment for questions to come in. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please enter your question in the box provided. Thank you. This concludes our question and answer session for today's webinar. Again, this webinar has been recorded and it will be sent out to all participants following our last session. I want to thank everyone for joining today, and I hope everyone has a great week. You may now disconnect.